Maestro is, and how it will help us, where and all we can use Maestro. And we are also going to drive through the demo and BPM and modeling and all of these things. So first of all, to start it with, to understand what exactly is UiPath Maestro. So Maestro actually helps us. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I think you'll have to start the recording. It's
Okay.
requesting
Let
to.
me start the recording. I think it started already. That's what I see.
You might have got the request.
Yes, it started already. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, team. Sorry for everyone. This interruption.
Okay. So talking about UiPath Maestro, so basically it actually helps. So in previous sessions, right, we have seen how to build agents, how to integrate our workflows with agents, and how to have human in the loop. We have seen the doc summarization use case where we have actually built an agent in the session. So if at all you're somebody who have not joined the previous sessions, we have the recordings available, so you can go and check them out. So that this will actually give you a complete understanding, so you won't miss out anything as a part of it. So this Maestro actually helps. So when you build the agents and the workflows and the human in the loop concepts, so with Maestro you can actually get everything into a single unified platform. Not just that, you can actually easily model them, you can orchestrate and optimize all these processes, where all of them can be used on a single unified interface. So if you see on the screen, we can have the agentic process, we can have the human in the loop concept, we can have a task, everything you can actually integrate on a single platform, right? So that's in where Maestro comes into picture. You can optimize and you can orchestrate everything with so much ease. So then before we go further, I wanted to talk about some of the key features, what all actually, the key features and capabilities of UiPath Maestro. First and the foremost, as I mentioned about the modeling. So whenever we drive a business process, whenever we design a business process in Maestro as a part of UiPath Maestro, we actually use BPMN modeling. Okay. So this is basically whenever you wanted to explain about a business process to certain stakeholders, so you don't have to stitch together your documents or your flow charts together anymore. You can just use the BPMN modeling. You can just drag and drop and define your flows. It is so simple and so easy. It will help you to actually create the clear maps of your flows. So when I say flows, you will bring together your bots, your agents, and the people. So when I say people, we can have that as a human in the loop concept. So you can map all of them together by using BPM and flow. So after I explain this, I will also explain you how you can create a BPMN model right from the scratch by taking a use case. Then you can actually able to make sense of what I'm explaining at the moment. And this, by using this BPMN modeling, you can actually create a clear visibility. That it will be more transparent and it will be traceable. And not just that, it is easy to modify as well. So with this, you can actually whenever there is an improvement or enhancement or the change request, you can easily modify these models, right? So that's how you can use these visual processes when it comes to BPM and modeling. And talking about the next thing, which is unified orchestration of robots, agents, and people. So you can bring together all of these things into a single coordinated process, right? So when it comes to robot, you can actually give the repetitive tasks to your robot. When there is involvement of a little bit of thinking or decision making, you can include your agents. And then there comes the exception, because not all the flows can be 100% positive scenarios, and there can be times where you need a human in the loop. Even though the agent can think and make decisions to some extent, but still you need some human intervention. Whenever it's needed, you can actually use the people for handling the exceptions in a smart way. So all these can be done in a unified workflow, which is our Maestro. Okay, so this actually helps the seamless collaboration between the digital, which is your robots and agents, as well as the human workers. So that's why we call it as a unified orchestration for robots, agents, and people. Right? I think I'm making the things clear for you. Talking about the next one, which is real-time monitoring and control. So if you see in this previous slide, I was just explaining that the execution over here, right? So you can see the whatever the execution that's happening over here, everything you can monitor over here in the execution trail. So the real-time monitoring is one of the capability that Maestro can provide you. So you can observe in the variables like what's happening, what is the value that is assigned, how much time it is taking, or there any executions that are faulted, or if at all, if it's faulted, what could be the reason of it. Everything can be monitored very easily, and it's easy to troubleshoot and debug. And in the runtime itself, you'll be able to understand what's happening. And if there is something gone wrong, you'll be able to understand why. Right, so this is something you'll be able to see over here, because if you see our orchestrator where we have for our processes, we'll be able to look at logs only, but will not have this much capability where you can see what's the value assigned at the runtime and what went wrong. But that you have to go back to your process, you have to troubleshoot, you have to debug. But in real time, this is something which is an advanced feature on the Maestro. When it's running, you can actually troubleshoot and you can see the real-time monitoring is a great feature that's available. This will actually help you to cut down the time of the troubleshooting, because you don't have to rerun your processes again. You can actually check it over here, what went wrong and what is the real reason for the issue, right? And not just that, you can actually take control of it. You can let's say for example, if something gone wrong, if you wanted to rerun your process. So let's say for example, at this particular step, if your process got faulted, right? So you have the capability to retry only this particular step instead of redoing it right from the scratch, correct? So that's something that you can take control over here. Yes. Talking about governance and security, so this is a major key and the role over here in any organization for that matter, right? So we have to ensure that whatever the roles, accesses that you're providing, or for example, there are guardrails that we set in order to ensure that there is safety and compliance, that we abide to our automations, right? So this will also help in following that governance and security. So every automation or every bot and agent, or the people or human in the loop that comes into picture, everybody actually follows the rules and the regulations or the policies that are applied to that to a certain process, right? So we can ensure that all these expectations or the policies or the rules are followed and abided. So when the rules are set, so let's say for example, today we have automation ops. So in order to provide a certain uh, access to a person, or and let's say for example in the AI center, so you can grant what accesses a person can be provided with. So you can actually set up automation ops also for that, in order to ensure that the governance is in place for this. So this ensure the accountability and also the policies are abided, and everything is in compliance, right? So talking about the integration with UiPath ecosystem, as you can see in this slide again. So yesterday, when in the session 2, when we have explained about the solution, we have shown how easy it is to integrate with all the components of UiPath. In the similar fashion, it is so easy to integrate with UiPath ecosystem when it comes to Studio or Orchestrator or AI Center, any of the UiPath components. And you can easily publish them, you can manage them. Not just that, you can also scale your automation. So let's say for example, in this particular task, okay, so resolve discrepancies, and if you're working for something which is a little bit similar, like invoice processing, and which has a similar task to be taken care of, or it should be included, for example, right? So you can use that part instead of redoing it right from the scratch. You can use this particular thing in across various Maestro BPML models in order to create that particular flow. So that's something will help you to scale the things as well. So you can reuse the models, you can reuse the bots and also the logic without rebuilding right from the scratch. So these are various things that can help us to integrate with the ecosystem. And finally, we all know that we have to understand how the the processes are running, what is, how much is the success rate and how much is faulted, how much allocation is utilized, and all of these are really really important at the end of the day, right? So to ensure that is captured properly, and instead of you building your customized dashboards, the Mastro also provides the dashboard. So when we run the instances, we'll be able to see when we see the demo at that part, we'll be able to see how many instances have run, how many are successful. The built-in dashboards are provided within the Mastro, which will help us to give provide or look into the actual the insights or actual happenings, or the faulted scenarios or the bottlenecks, what's happening in that particular Mastro processes, right? So these are the key features of UiPath Mastro, which have covered everything in and out what a business would look at and what a business need from a particular product. So talking about the demo, so let's build something. Till now we have seen what all the capabilities that are available. So let's try to build something and see how it actually eases the process. So now let me just take you to. So if you wanted to build a BPMN model, so you have to go to something called bpmn.uipath.com. So you can also try to build alongside me if you are accessible and could able to open in your laptop. So let's, if you go to bpmn.uipath.com, you'll be seeing something like this, where you can create a new BPMN model, or you can actually import. But if you wanted to import something, it should be for sure should be an extension of .bpmn, right? So then only it will be allowing you. So now let me just create a BPMN model. So in this case, I'm gonna create something which is invoice to pivot match. Okay, so let me just rename this thing, this model, as invoice to pivot match. Okay. Not getting renamed. Invoice. Okay, let me give it a try. After some time, I think there were some issues when I'm trying to rename them. Let me just try it out. Okay. So first of all, what exactly I'm going to drive over here is, firstly, let's say I receive an invoice from a particular vendor. If it is it actually goes through certain processes where I involve some tasks, some agents, and also human in the loop. That's what we have discussed earlier, right? So if it is a task, then I want a robot to be executed based on certain conditions and criteria. I want it to be processed further. So I wanted to build that end-to-end flow over here. Okay. So for that, if you see over here, we have lot of objects over here, lot of elements, right? So these are the elements which we will be using in order to build the model. So in order to keep it simple and basic, I will just explain you here what exactly the what exactly is needed for our particular process. So first, when I use the start event, so let me just rename this as um, I will be renaming this as invoice received, because this is the place where my process actually starts, right? So if you observe here, we have lot of things. So I have used the element over here. I can change, or I can tell where it will be directed to next, right? So what will be the next particular step? So let's say, for example, invoice is received. But what is the trigger point for this is something I can define. I will mention an annotation. Annotation is something which will be using similar to our studio. So annotation will help us to understand what's actually, in this case, let's say I would mention invoice received. So the trigger for this particular invoice received is I'm mentioning over here. So let's say I would say data service trigger, or you can mention anything. So let's say you receive an invoice from a vendor through an email, right? Or through a Outlook, anything. You can mention that particular trigger. This is just for understanding annotations, or if anybody sees the particular flow, they'll be able to easily make sense of what we are doing over here, right? So I'm first starting it with invoice received, and then here to start any other next step, you can choose what exactly is your next step. So once after I received the invoice, I wanted to perform a task where I use a workflow, right? So for that, I will use a task. Okay. In this task, what exactly I'm going to do is I'm going to match the invoice with the PO. So this particular workflow will help me to do that particular operation. So invoice to PO match. Okay. So this is my task. So post matching, what happens? We have to check whether there is any resolution required or not. So for that purpose, this is the next one which is coming is a decision making step, right? So for that, I'm using something called exclusive gateway. So in exclusive gateway, you can keep the output, like what exactly happens next based on a certain outcome. So let's say, for example, I would keep this. If you observe the properties of this exclusive gateway, once after I provide this, so let's say this is the path. So you can see that this is a sequence flow which will help to take this particular path. And let's say, for example, I give one more task here and then I provide this. If this particular sequence flow on a certain outcome, this will be executed. So let's say once after I give the invoice and PO match, I'm gonna give the output if the resolution is required. If it's yes, I am going to perform this. Otherwise, if it's no, then I'm going to perform this. So to keep this simple, let me just arrange this, arrange this, arrange it like this. And now if you see here, I'm going to provide something like, okay, so I'm going to provide is resolution required. Okay. I'm going to choose this particular path if no resolution is required, right? In this path, what I'm going to do is I'm going to approve the invoice. So invoice approval. So who is going to do this particular task? This is not be done by the automation. This should be done by a human, correct? This task is done by automation, but however, this task is not done by automation. This should be done by the human. So to be specific about it, I am going to provide this as action center task. Okay, and this is an automation RPA workflow. Okay, and post that we are going to work on the other flow. So this flow is, yes, we need a resolution. So in this particular flow, this task will be executed, right? So in this case, we are going to first resolve the discrepancies. So we've matched both of them. There is no discrepancy, then directly it will be sent for the invoice approval, where the human in the loop will come into picture in the action center and he will take a decision. But in case if the dependencies or not, if there are any discrepancies, then it will be gone here where we need to resolve the discrepancies, right? So pause that. So let's consider this as our agent task. Okay, so now once after the invoice is, let's say it has been sent to the action center for the human to action. So once after the human actions, there can be two types of outcomes, right? The human can approve or they can reject. So again, we have to choose the exclusive gateway. So in the case where they approve, in the cases where they approve, so let's say I would again provide this as approved or not. If they have approved in this path, if it's approved, then I'm gonna post this in SAP, right? Otherwise, in case if it's not approved, right, I will just take this path if it's not approved. So in this case, I would be notifying the vendor that it's not approved. Okay, so this is it. And now for any of the flow, we have to ensure that there is a, if you see here, we have this as a start trigger, right? So this is a start of the process, start event. And in a similar fashion, we need to have end event. So every of this, so if you observe here, it is started and the flow has progressed like this. And if you see, this is one part and this is another part and this is the last one. So there should be an end for all the flows that we are defining here. So if it's posted in SAP, then the last or the end state for this would be, so I'm choosing an end event over here, and the end state would be the invoice has been processed successfully, right? So let's keep that as invoice processed. That's an end state. But in case if it's rejected or we are notifying the vendor that it got rejected, in that case the end state would be invoice rejected. Okay, let's come to this state. Okay, so now we are asking the agent to resolve the discrepancies. Okay, now if the agent is able to resolve the discrepancies, then we have one outcome, which is we can send it for invoice approval. Otherwise, if the agent is not able to resolve the discrepancies, then in that case we will be notifying the vendor saying that the invoice got rejected. So in that case, again, after the agent's action, let me just create, and I'll use one more exclusive gateway where I will be connecting this to invoice approval in case if it is approved. Okay, but in case if it's rejected, I'll be, if it is unable to resolve the discrepancies, then I'll be notifying the vendor. Okay, so now I will use this particular thing as a gateway again. Would resolve discrepancies. So if it is yes, then we are going to do here. Otherwise, we are going to reject it, right? So that's the whole flow where we have kept the all the paths have been reached an end state, right? So now, as of now, if you observe over here, we have multiple things involved. One is our RPA flow, which is our robot, where it will do the repetitive task, which does not involve any of the human intelligence. And then we involve when it is the need of the human. In such cases, we involve action center task where we call the human to take the action, whether to approve or reject. And in cases where we need a agent to take action or to decide something or to think about and to resolve something, then in that case we call the agent in order to resolve the discrepancies. So we have involved all three of them in a single flow where we can actually demonstrate something which is much more clear and easy to create. So this is something which you can use to create the business process models by using BPMN. So here, if you observe, you can also export or download this particular file. So as I've mentioned, this will be coming in BPMN format. So let me just quickly show you. So this will be coming in BPMN format, right? Because if you observe, let me open this. Here, the whole BPMN model is embedded is actually converted or is in the backend, it is in a XML format, right? So when you actually download this, it's coming in a BPMN model. So you can use this in our Maestro, where when Krishna drives the demo, so he will explain you how you can create the BPMN model in our agentic process and how you can use it for the orchestration purpose. So if you wanted to reuse that when you are using between multiple tenants, or when you're actually use reuse, or if you don't want to build it right from the scratch, you can actually import and export it, and you can modify it instead of building it right from the scratch. So that's something about how you can build a BPMN model, how you can create all of these flows and on a single platform and get them together, and how you can export and import and reuse them instead of building everything every single time that you need. So I hope this part is clear. So as we go further, when we see even more demos, so you'll be able to make more sense of it. So yeah. So Krishna will take further on use case and demo explanation on using it in Maestro.
Thank you, Harika. Can you see my share?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. So before getting into the Maestro part or the agentic orchestration part, so yesterday we had a question from someone asking about how we include a tool into our agent. So maybe we'll just have a quick walkthrough. So we'll just remove this. So this will be the agent. This will be the agent builder where we build our agents, right? So basically, we have the prompt section, user prompt, and system prompt section, and then tools, context, and expressions, right? So how do you involve an RPA workflow here? So you just have to click on add tool, and then you'll have something called RPA workflow here, toolbox. Just click on it, and then here you'll be able to see all the automations you have in the orchestrator from all the folders, right? So if you have an automation in this solution itself, like if you built a process here itself, it will be under in current solution, and then you can drag and use it. If not, if you have some in some other folders from orchestrator, you can just click on it, and that tool will be added to your tools. So basically here, and one more change you need to do is with respect to the system prompt. You need to clearly mention that for this case, or for when you have some information, you need to start this tool. So something like that. So you need to specifically mention in the prompt to the agent when to start the uh, RPA tool. Okay, so that's about the tools. Now let's get back to the UiPath Maestro. So far we understood like what is BPMN, and then how do we create a BPMN? Basically, BPMN business process model notation. So basically, it is not created by UiPath. It is already a specific notation which has been followed from some years to create the process flows. So UiPath Maestro. So this is the Maestro is nothing but the agentic process orchestration tool from UiPath. And so we'll just quickly go through the life cycle of Maestro. So by the word Maestro, so if you are already a UiPath developer, we have something called orchestrator, right? Which orchestrates our robots. So basically, it will control and manage our robots. So to manage our robots, we have orchestrator, and to manage our agents and the combination of agents, robots, and everything, we have something called Maestro. By the word Maestro, it also means something which will control. Okay. So these are the different life cycle stages. We start with model, and we implement, operate, monitor, and then optimize. So basically the model part, which Harika just now showed. So whenever we have an agentic process, we start with BPMN. So we create a BPMN, which will have the end-to-end processes and then agents if required, and then if human in the loop requires, then that. So we basically in the model section, we design the entire BPMN. And to build BPMN in the old ways, we may need to do manually, just like how Harika did. But with UiPath, we have something called autopilot, where you can briefly explain what your solution is, or your use case is, and then it will automatically create your BPMN. So all you need to know is English. So that's the model part. Next, the implementation part. So once you have the BPMN, all you need to do is map the right tasks to the right activities. So I will explain like what this exclusive or means, or what is a service task, what is a user task. So I'll explain those activities. But for now, just understand the implementation part is where you map to the BPMN notations to actual tasks. Let's say you have a service task, you will map service task to that. Service task can be something which does some activity, uh, basically like opening an Excel file and then doing some activities and then saving it, or opening SAP and then doing some actions there and then proceeding further. So basically, these are service tasks. So that mapping done in the implementation part. So basically, you integrate all the actual activities, those BPMN notations. And the control part here, this is where the place you see the run of the BPMN. So you'll basically see if it is working fine or not. You can see the instance live when it is running. So that's where the operate part comes into picture. And after the run, in the monitor part, you'll observe the analytics of the runs of the instances. We have a separate section in Maestro called Monitor, so where you can see the previous runs and then the KP different insights from that instances. And last, optimization part. Here you can understand the impacts of these agents on top level KPIs, and by that, if required, you can further optimize if the KPIs are if KPIs didn't meet your expectation. You can again go back to model and then update your prompts, system or user prompts, and then make it further better. So that's basically the optimization part. So this is basically the end-to-end life cycle of Maestro. So in these end-to-end processes, we'll have AI agents where in the first session, if you remember, so automations can run, but this cannot use their brain. So you whatever you define, this can automation can carry out only those. But agents can think. So you'll have AI agents, automations, manual tasks, and systems. So this will be the Maestro's life cycle. So next, so to understand or to start with the Maestro part, so we need to understand the basic concepts of BPMN. So what are the elements of BPMN, or the core components of BPMN? So now let's dive into the concept of activities. So basically, in BPMN we have, if you have referred the chat, I already shared the cheat sheet. So this is the common things we'll have in BPMNs. So basically, we'll have activities, we have flows, we have markers, we have gateways, we have events, and then we have task types. So we'll go through one by one like an overview. We don't need to go in detail, but as an overview, we'll go through. So let's start with activities. An activity is done. Is one of the most important elements in a business process diagram. Whenever you see work being done, whether by a human or by a software, it is represented as an activity. So think of activities as the action steps of your process. So they are what actually move the process forward. Every activity consumes some resource. It can be time, effort, or cost. For example, approving a leave request, it takes time, right? So that can be an activity. Or verifying an invoice consumes that will consume an effort. So that can also be an activity, right? So that's basically the activities are. So within this activity, we have three types: a task, a sub process, and call activity. A task is nothing but a single individual step, and a sub process is like a sub bundle of the main task where you'll have like, sub tasks in it, and you can call this within the task. And call activity, if you compare these with the UiPath notation, so call activity is nothing but invoke workflow. So you call a function, right? So the call activity is used to call a process. This is to make sure the reusable concept. So basically, these are the types of activities. So in detail, so um, task, as I mentioned in the example, if you have like approve requests, that can be a task. If you want to send an email, so that will again be a task. So that is basically a task. A sub process is again the mini process inside the main workflow. And so if you have a very big complex task, and it will be very confusing if you see all at once. So in that cases, you split them into sub processes. So that's what sub process mean. And then call is like this will trigger another independent BPMN process. Basically, as I mentioned, you can think this as a invoke workflow. Okay. Next, events. So event is nothing but it is represented as a circle symbol. So here, unlike activities which represent work being done, events mark things that happen to a process. So in diagrams, you'll always recognize them because they are drawn as circles. So events don't represent efforts or tasks. Instead, they'll signal something occurring. So let's say you have carried out some task. The next um, uh, after that, there should be something happening, right? So that these are the events. Let's say process will start with an email trigger or something. So that will be an event. So that is basically event. Within that, we'll have again three types: start events, intermediate events, and end events. Start events is where you want your process to start. It can be a trigger. And intermediate events are in between events. Let's say it can be a delay. So after an event happened, you want some delay. So that can be an intermediate event. Or if you want to, let's say, if something goes wrong, you want to patch an exception and then do something else. So that can also be an intermediate event. And end event is nothing but to mark the process as complete. So if you mark it as an if you use an end event, that means the process will end there. So these are the events in BPMN. Mm. So these are basically two important ones, and the other important ones we have in the cheat sheet. So just open this. Let's show you as a higher level overview. You can, if you're interested, I have already shared this in the chat. You can go through. Mhm. So we have gone through the events. To identify them, this is how they look. The event will have a single circle, an intermediate event will have a double circle, and then end event will have a thick circle. Mm. And within that, you have types. So if you see a message icon within a circle, that means it is a email triggered start event. And then if you see a double circle on event, then something is catching here, and then you're going to handle an exception. Mm. And if you see in the end event, you see in a message, then a communication is going to happen to an external system. Like if you're going to end your process by sending an email, then this is how it will. Okay. So it's about events and activities. So again, activities are represented as um, rectangle boxes, and these are where plain task looks like. And then a sub process will have a plus icon, and then call activity will have a thick border and a plus icon. These are again different types of tasks. For send task, you'll have this message, this icon, and then for receive task. So these are notations in UiPath, which I'll show you. So we'll basically use few of them to carry out a task. So at that time, you will be able to understand. And gateways, just like in UiPath, how we have these if conditions, right? So based on the previous action, based on some condition, the next step should be carried out, right? So basically, that's an if condition in UiPath. Similar ways in Maestro or in agentic orchestration, we have something called gateways. So here, gateways decide the next step. Again, here we have different types of gateways. So first one is exclusive gateway. If you are aware of these logical statements, so we know like XR and or, right? So basically these the same concepts will come here. Only the difference will be like you don't have to write XOR. Instead, you can use the symbol for XOR. So for example, for XOR, if you have the basic if condition, so if A greater than B, then do something. If not, then do something. So that's where XOR comes into the picture. We use XOR in our demo. And parallel gateway, if you want to do all the paths at the same time, so you want the first flow also to happen, and then second flow also to happen, then you'll have something called parallel gateway, and it is represented like with this symbol. And inclusive gateway, if you want to do one or more paths, depending on a condition, then we use inclusive gateway and event-based gateway. If you want to happen something on an event occurred, then you can use event-based gateway. And then if all these conditions are not helping you. If you want to have a custom gateway, you can have something called complex gateway where you can decide the logic. That's something about gateways. So now we saw about the activities, events, and gateways, right? And the markers. So markers will specify the behavior of the objects. If you see three um, vertical lines, then that means the multiple instances are running at once. And if you see uh, parallel lines, then you that means like multiple sequences are running, multiple instances in sequential order, and multiple instances in parallel order. So this is basically parallel, and this is like it'll wait one after the other. So if you're not able to understand this, you know, quickly have a description also with an example, so you can go through here. Next, flows. So from one step to another step, we need to represent the flow, right? So those flows are represented using arrow marks, and then each arrow mark represents different things. Like, for example, a straight arrow represents a sequence flow, and then dotted ones will represent a message flow, and then this represents the association. I don't know what is the difference between these two. Yeah. And the icons, these two icons, the one represents the data object, and then one represents the data store. So basically, these are the components of BPMN. Okay, so let's go to Maestro and then build our first agentic orchestration process. So today we're going to build one of the common solution or use case called invoice data extraction. The only difference is we're not specifically training any model to do the extraction. We're basically starting with this scratch. Like all we have is a document, and we are starting like we extract text from the document, and then identify if it is an invoice, and if it is an invoice, then get fields, specific fields from that invoice, and then put that into an ERP system or whatever want to do later. So basically, we start with an RPA. So I'm not building an RPA now, because this is basically a simple one. From a document, let's say this is my input document. So from this, I want to extract invoice number, and then customer number, vendor name, and then sorry, vendor invoice date, and then some fields from invoice, right? So we'll start with an RPA, and then from that we fetch the entire text, and then we use an agent. We use an agent to understand what kind of text it is, and if it is an invoice, then get the information related to invoice. And if also while extracting, we need, since we don't have any I mean, document understanding part, we'll just read and then give, but it's not going to extract here. So it's better to have the confidence and accuracy levels to further decide if the extraction done properly or not, right? So for that, we also ask agent to give the confidence and accuracy levels. And then at the end, so we'll just have a service task where it'll update in some Excel or an ERP system or something. Yeah, basically this is our use case. So let's start here from here. So let's go from home. So all you have to do is you have to click on this breadcrumb symbol, and then here you'll find Maestro. Then if you open Maestro, you can start creating an agentic process from clicking here. Like you can click on start modeling, and then from there you can start building. But since we started from Studio Web, let's not get confused here. We can still do it everything in a single place from Studio Web. Can create on new. So here you can see yesterday we built an agent. Now we built a agentic process. Agentic process is a combination of everything. So we'll rename our solution. It's called as noise extraction AP. So this is our solution. So we'll start with BPMN now. So as I already mentioned in the model stage, right? So we already have autopilot. So we can directly write like I need to extract information from an invoice, and then for that I can give me BPMN, and then it will automatically create a BPMN for you. But for now, let's build from scratch. So instead of directly getting into the use case, we can start with some basic activities with what these do. So for example, I told you, right? So if you want to involve any task, some set of activities, so you have something called task. If you have to choose a condition, then we have something called gateways, and then this represents end event, and this will be an intermediate event. Let's say if you want to add a delay, then we'll use this. And then if you want to add an annotation for each case, then you use annotation. If you want to remove, then you use delete. Okay. So in our case, we said we'll start with invoice PDF text, right? So here, what we can do is, I'm not doing it now in our use case, but I'll just show you how it is done. So first, this is plain start event, but if you want to convert that into a trigger event, all you need to do is change element and then search for a message start event. So this is my message start event. And then here, just like how we had the properties for panel in UiPath Studio and UiPath Studio Web, here also we'll have properties panel. So here you can see what it needs to start with. Let's say if I want to start uh, with an with a file in Google Drive, right? So all I need to do is wait for connector event, choose an action. So this will be the name. So this name, right? So wait for email file. If I change this, this will be basically the naming of the activity. And you can write a description. And we'll have two sections for this, action and connector. Action, so we need to wait for a connector event, and connectors are nothing but the integration services connector. So the same, those all integration services connectors will be available here. Let's say in my case, I need to start the flow when the file is placed in a Google Drive. Then all I need to do is search for Google Drive. I already have a connection created, so it will select that. Then trigger should be file created. And then I need to quickly select the location, invoices maybe, and then save. You can, if required, you can add a filter also. Like if you want, if you only want to start if the name contains an invoice, then you can select name and then contains, and then here you can write invoice. And then if you click on save, then it will only start if a file is created and the name contains an event. Sorry, an invoice, right? So for now, I'm not doing this. I'm just directly hard coding the text from here. Just delete it. Sorry. I'm just using plain start event. And then I'm going to add a service task. So this is normally a task. If you want to make this as a service task or user task, you need to click on change element. And then here you need to select the type of the task. So in our case, service task. So service task is nothing but I can invoke an agent or an action app or an action sorry, an agent or a UiPath workflow. So those kind of service tasks I can involve here. So in my case, let's say if I have an RPA workflow, I'll be using start and wait for an RPA workflow, and then that will start and then extract text and then give it in plain text. So this is my input PDF. So from this RPA workflow would have got the text from here and then given it in plain text, right? So that is simple. I'm not building that here. So all I'll do is like from here. So if you have an RPA workflow, you can use start and wait for RPA workflow, and then use that automation. Let's say this one, and then that will give an output, right? So that you can pass further. So I'm directly hard coding that value here. Keep none. And then in output, I'll add a variable. I call it as out score str PDF next. And then here I'm hard coding the red text. This is my text from PDF. And save. So now here RPA would have invoked, and then it would have given me the out text, right? So that I hard coded here. Next, once we have the text, so if you go back here, we have the text part. So here you can use an RPA workflow, or you can use a document understanding activity to just read the text and then get the plain text. You don't have to extract any field from that. All you need to do is get the plain text from it. Next, the agent part, right? So now we need to pass this text to an agent and then tell that to understand what the text, what is the text contain, and then if it is an invoice, then extract some fields for us, right? So let's build an agent now. So here in the same place, we have to build. I mean, we can build. If you have agent in some other section also, you can invoke. You can add a service task and then invoke. Since we don't have an agent, we'll add an agent here itself. Then we name it extract first. Let's go to agent. And then we name the agentic process also. Yeah, good. Go to agent part now. Again, I can generate the agent. I don't want to write all my prompts. I can generate the agent using autopilot. So I already have a built prompt for this. So yesterday I mean, in the last session, we discussed about the prompt engineering part, like how do you write a prompt. So basically, this is my one shot prompt. So I'm writing the role, you're a specialized agent in document understanding. Then I'm mentioning what I need, and also I'm mentioning that it should return in the structure with an example. Yeah. So I'll just copy this prompt into autopilot. Let's put the same in the chat. Uh, let's click on send message. It is prompting me the system and user prompts. I'll just click on review sessions. This is basically my system prompt is mentioning that you are a specialist in document understanding. And then after it has to do the following, like it has to accurately identify and extract specific fields from invoice texts. Also, I mentioned, right? So based on the confidence score, we decide if we have to go further or if we have to raise an action item, right? So for that, I'm also asking confidence scores and overall extraction accuracy as well. And everything should be in a structured JSON format. So it is okay for me. I'm just clicking on accept. And for user prompt, click on review sessions. And so here basically how the user is going to give the input, right? So he's going to give the input in the form of invoice text. And then from that, I need a proper structured JSON format with all these details. So it's also okay for me. I'm clicking on accept. So for now, we don't need any tools. So I'm just leaving this as it is. And then context also we don't need. So we just need to understand like how this works with BPMN, right? Okay, so now let's be deep. So the argument, since it is showing red, that means like if this argument is not created. Let's scroll down. And then here you can see the arguments also. Just click on review sessions. It will show, and then click on accept sessions. So the argument is also created. So our autopilot part is done. And then now we have built agent also automatically. So let's debug the agent. Let's copy this entire text. This is my text, and I'm clicking on save and debug. Our agent got started with this text. LLM call happened. You can already extract some information from it. We'll see the agent input. So here you can see from that plain text, it is able to extract number, vendor name, invoice date, total amount. And then for each of this extraction, we have specific confidence, like how confident it is. And then overall accuracy, like giving all extractions as a summary accuracy, we have 92%. So now we'll decide like if it is greater than, we can decide the value. So ideally, the confidence, I mean, accuracy levels, if it is greater than 80, then basically it is good. So we'll use 85. Like if it is, if the accuracy is more than 85, then continue to update in ERP, else raise an action item, right? So this is basically the agent part. So now we built the agent. Let's get back to the Project Explorer. So the agent part is done. Let's get back to the process BPMN. So from here we have the text from RPA, right? So now let's add a service task again. So I'm adding a task and then changing it to service task. So this is my service task. This is here. This is where I'm calling my agent. So in action part, use start and wait for agent. Then select the agent. It will show all the agents from your orchestrator and your defined resources. So I have my defined resources here, extract agent. I'm selecting that. And for that, it takes input as invoice text, right? So click on this expression editor and you can choose variables, click on variables. And then here the output of an RP workflow will be a plain text, right? So that is basically this variable, right? So all we need to do is pass this variable to the agent. And from the agent, these are the output fields that you're going to get. So we're going to use overall accuracy, right? So until here we read the text, then we built an agent to understand and get the information from the text, right? So from here you need to decide if the accuracy level is more than 80, then continue with the ERP part and do something else. Else, raise an action item and then close, right? Let's create an exclusive gateway. So basically, exclusive gateway is nothing but an if condition, right? So just add two tasks. This exclusive gateway is basically a conditional statement, but it will not work as an if condition. You need to be careful there. So in if condition, you write an if condition in exclusive gateway, and then if it is yes, by default you'll have two um, flows, right? If it is yes, then go here. If it is no, then go here. Here it will not be the case. You need to specifically mention the condition inside the flows. If the condition mentioned inside this flow is satisfied, only then the next step will be defined. So what do I mean by that? So I'll show you. I'm adding two tasks. From this, I need to do two ways. I need to go two ways. If the accuracy is more than 80, then go here, else go here. So that I need to mention in the flow. So initially it will be red. If I click here and then click on properties, here, this is where I need to write the condition. So firstly, I'll write accuracy greater than 80, then choose this flow, right? Just this. Okay. So here I'll be doing some. So here I'll be doing some service task again. This can be an RPA workflow again to update details in ERP system. Again, since it is an RPA workflow, I'm not building it again. So you can, all you need to do is like build an RPA workflow, publish, and then use action as start and wait for RPA workflow, and then pass these variables. That's it. So in greater than cases, it'll need to go red. So it'll still red because we didn't give the condition yet. So I need to click on here, use expression editor. Again, here you can use the variables. So from the agent, so this is my agent. From the agent, I have these variables or arguments, out arguments. So I'm using the overall accuracy. And if overall accuracy is greater than 80, then I want to go to ERP condition, right? To update this valuation to ERP, right? So this is my condition. And you don't need to test the entire BPMN or entire agentic process to see if this condition working or not. We have a test input here itself. So for this variable, for this variable, you can give the it's like watch panel in your studio, right? So you can give the live value here. Let's say if I give 40, 45, and rest, output will be false. And if I give 87 and then rest, output will be true. So my condition is working fine. You can click on save, and then that becomes normal, right? That's one case. And in the second case, here accuracy less than 80. So in this case, I'm going to add again variable or accuracy less than 80. And if I keep 40 again, just true. And if I keep 86 and test, it says false. I'm clicking on save. So if in less than cases, it will come here and then the task will be carried out, right? These are my two cases. Now, if you observe, we have greater than 80 and then we have less than 80, right? But there is one more case if the value is 80. So in normal if conditions, it will choose like if you keep greater than 80 and then if you leave it like that, in all the cases, it will go to else block, right? So that's why we need to not compare directly with if condition. Here it will not be the case. If we get an accuracy of 80, this will fail here, right? So you need to specifically mention all possible conditions here itself. So let's go here. There can be one more condition that it will be equal to, right? I'll just mention equal to. Again, after mentioning, I'll just test it here itself. It is 80. Also, it will be true. Okay. Now we covered two cases. Here, if it is less than, then we said like we'll raise an action element or action app, right? So that can be a user task. And then for user task, you'll have user related task called create an action app task. You can use this and then you can raise an action item to user. And then from there, you can continue again. So in between, we'll just add one more. After confirmation, get validated results and creating ERP system. And this again can be a user by service task. And our process ends here, right? This is how to user. Basically, this is our complete BPMN model. So again, you directly click and then drag, it will not move. So you have to hold the space bar and then drag. Only then you'll be able to navigate through this BPMN. Okay. I hope we covered all things. Let's run the mod on BPMN. Click on debug. So initially I've started using the trigger event, right? So that's why it is showing this. If I'm using it, it'll show. I can remove. Actually, I'm not using this. So rest of the things are same, like processes, we have extract agent and then a BPMN and then RPA workflow. I also showed you like how do we include an RPA workflow, right? That's what it is showing here. We're not using an RPA workflow here. Click on save and debug. The great part is we can see the flow, like how where it is going. Yeah, you can see RPA workflow started. Here the RPA might have run and then it would have given the text. So we directly hard coded that value. So now that hard coded value passed to agent. And from that we got here you can trace. You can see from agent output we have this output from agent. And then we have overall accuracy of 92. And then it went to the successful case. And then here it might have an RPA workflow might have invoked and then it would have configured. If in the less than case, it will raise an action item to user and then user might have validated and then provided some results in the action app task. And then with that result, an RPA workflow again might have updated in ERP. Basically, we don't need this again. We can just connect this to here, but just understand it clearly. I just created a service task. Now we created uh, agentic process BPMN, I mean, agentic process sort of orchestrate and workflow, I mean, entire process. Now, how do we publish this? All we need to do is click on publish. This again, if you see, this again is a solution package. Yesterday, we published only with the agent. Now we are publishing with the BPMN model. That's the only difference. Is again the same solution package, right? So just click on publish, and then the same tenant feeds. I'm publishing it. It will notify me once my solution is published, and you can click on check package. So this is my solution. So basically, yesterday we saw, right? So we have a solution, and then we after the solution has been built, here in I don't have any errors, so that's why it is okay. So if I the solution is built, we need to deploy this package to our orchestrator. So for that, we need to click on this play symbol. I can choose. I've created a folder for Maestros. So if it's here, projects Maestro, and I'm selecting that folder. Then I'm clicking on review. Here I will see the different solutions I'm going to, I mean, different resources under solutions which I'm going to deploy. So these are my resources. If I see, if I want to pre-check if there is any errors or something, you can click on validate, and then it will show errors. Sometimes when you deploy an agent with a storage bucket, the index will not work properly. At that time, all you need to do is like just click on that error and then select the correct index. That is one problem that we see a lot. So now we don't have any problem. So let's click on deploy. Deployment is starting. And then in some time it's already deployed. You can see here. So in under process, we see three. So basically this is empty. So we have agent and then a BPMN model. So now we deployed. So now we can make this a BPMN as a trigger. So you can create a trigger of that. Uh, you can keep it as a trigger, and then for every time it will run, and then you can watch the instance. So for now, I'm just running the agent. If you keep the start event as a event trigger, like a file created or something, you can also add provide an event trigger for that. For jobs, I'll just start it. So before that, this is my studio web, right? We'll go to Maestro to see the instance running. For that, I need to go to home, go to Maestro, process instances. So from here also you can create, if we click on start modeling, it will go to BPMN again. So we'll just see how the elements of the Maestro. So here you can see my recent projects, and then here you can see the predefined templates, and then the process monitoring part, how many processes ran, and then how many live instances are currently running, and then how many are faulted. Let's go to process instances. Now, currently nothing is running. We'll just trigger this. I'm running in my as myself, so I don't have an unattended setup to run, so I'm just using it myself. Click on start. And if I go here, let's refresh. You can see the instance. So this is my instance. It is, I think it is already run. So the instance that we run here, you will see the process running part here under instances. So if we run again, so myself, then start. We go to monitoring. That time it starts, I think. It's completing so fast. But yeah, so if you have a longer task, because once you start here, you will see the live run. Not again, I think it is completing in seconds. Select this. I can see the execution trail. Came here, and then here I can see the live logs. So it went to RPA and then agent and then agent output, click gateway, and then at the end it updated into ERP system. This is basically how you monitor the instances. And then here in the life cycle steps I told you, right? So we have the modeling and then monitoring and optimize, design, monitoring and optimize, right? So here you can monitor the live instances. It will also show the heat map, like where the longest time, the longer duration activity or service task took. So here mostly our agent is the one which takes a lot of time here, right? So that's why heat map shows very dark here. And then in the optimization section, you can see for now there is no huge data. But if you have much data or your BPMN is very huge, then it will give you suggestions also. Okay, that's about the instances in Maestro. Yeah, I think that's it from my end. If you have any questions, you can ask me.
For when we are using the agents, it will tokens are consumed, right?
Yes, we have something called, let me share the screen again. We have something called agent units. So whenever you uh, consume or start or invoke an agent unit will be consumed. And if you in
Okay.
your automation, if you have a document understanding process, for that an AU unit will be consumed. And then if you have a connector or integration services, or like it will rate if it starts with an event, then an integration services API call will be a unit of this will be consumed.
Thank you.
Michelle, you would like to ask the question?
We can say in the agent when we have created the agent in the agent creation of the agent time itself, we can able to call the RPA workflow as well, right?
Yes. Yes. We have something called tool section in agent builder. So all you need to do is you need to properly craft your prompt when to use your tool, and then you can involve your RPA workflows.
If there are any questions from the previous sessions also along with the today, you can feel free to ask the question to the speakers. Okay, so there are no questions, I believe. So thank you, Mother Krishna and Harika, for giving the insights about the agentic orchestration with UiPath Maestro. And really looking forward to you all. If there are any questions, you can shoot it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. Okay, so I hope that there are no questions and
There's a question in the chat. Could you please answer it?
uh, Yeah,
There's a
so
question from Mission.
there's one question, Krishna, that if
Okay.
agent is built on the cloud and their actions in the studio desktop, can he connect the actions in studio desktop with the agent in the cloud?
Yes. As I mentioned, so the actions that you have in Studio Web, you will publish that as an RPA workflow to Orchestrator. And then in Agent Builder, you have something called Tools section, and then you involve that RPA workflow there. And then you mention prompt that for this task, you run the RPA workflow. So yes, we can involve the tools. Yeah, correct
Thank
answer.
you.
Great. Thank you, Krishna, for answering it.
Cool.
So I don't see any other questions. If there are no questions, then we can drop off. So thank you all for joining for the sessions, and really appreciate that you have many of you I can see who have joined all the sessions, session 1, 2, and 3. So I have already shared the link in the chat, and you will see the recording of this session as well in the event chapter. So you can go to the Dubai chapter and uh, go to the page where you have RSVP'd for the Master Agentic Orchestration. We will post the slides as well as the recording as well in the same page itself, so you refer it. And we have also shared the LinkedIn profile. So if you would like to connect with us on the LinkedIn, feel free to connect with us. If there's any queries, also you can let us know. We stay connected with the UiPath community, so you can also uh, connect with us in the forum as well. And please follow the speaker's YouTube channel as well. That will give you more insights onto the deep dive into the agentic journey as well. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Madhu Krishna. Thank you, Harika.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.